Oh, well, that's not the one I want. Okay. Well, hello, and welcome. Hopefully, actually, let me go ahead and get the comments open on this just in case anybody decides to join in. So, I got some GameCubes. Oops. Oh, that one's plugged in. Let me grab this one down here. This one's not plugged in. So this one actually was sold as working, and it is working. This is a Japanese GameCube, as it were. I'm not going to change it to NTSC. I'm going to leave it Japanese. But I'm still waiting on the Wind Waker disc to come. This other one here that I've got right there is the American one. It was sold as is, and they told me that the problem was that it wouldn't read discs. This is not true. It reads discs just fine. I was prepared for it to not read discs and for me to replace the mini DVD drive with an SD reader, and all would be well. But I got it, and I tried it out, and I thought, well, first of all, a lot of times when people have these problems with it won't read discs, it's either because it really won't read discs and the laser is kind of gone bad, or it's too old, or it has the other problem is that the disc itself has like sat in the sun or something like that, and so the discs that they're testing with are not good discs. In this particular case, the reason that it won't play games is because, let me see if I can get this better in view. Oh, I gotta let's see what can we do about this here so you can see this better, because you can't really see this. Let's see, could I get that in view somehow? Let me try to shine some light on it so you can see here. Yeah, there we go. So here we've got the controller port. Let's see if it'll go into focus. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Focus. Come on. There we go. Oh, well, never mind. Anyway, and I've already played around with it a little bit. So let me tell you what I did. Well, let me tell you what the problem is. I'll just start off with telling you what the problem is. The problem is that you can't really see it that well, but right here, the solder joints are just not very good. I'm gonna try to get as close as I can because I want you to be able to see this. And I am gonna bring up. Give me just 1 second. I'm bringing it up just in case we got any comments coming in or questions or anything. All right. Let me bring this in as close as I can for you. All right, you should be able to see that. Okay, good. There we go. So right here, right there, the problem is that, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if we can bring this in even closer. The pins and the ribbon actually aren't touching anymore. So I don't know how that came to be, but this is the bad one. And I'll tell you the process I did to check this. So first I thought, well, first thing we ought to do, the controller seems to be not working. I'll just swap from the one where the controller is working with the one, from the other, right? So I just unplug the ribbon. I plug in the ribbon of the one that is working, because this is what we want to do first. We want to try to isolate where could the problem be. The problem could be upstream. It could be on the motherboard. In that case, screw it. Probably not going to fix it. The problem could be downstream. It could be the controller. So first thing I did was I tried a different controller. I thought, okay, well, maybe this controller suddenly isn't working, or maybe my extension cable isn't working. Got rid of the extension cable, plugged the controller in, plugged a different controller in, and, boots up. I can't. The controller inputs are doing nothing. So then I take the other GameCube and I unplug its controller port, I plug it in, and it's working. Okay, well, what do you do next? Well, how about we take the original one and just plug it back in? Maybe ghost in the machine, maybe some dust, some dirt, loose connection, something like that. So I plug back in the original, it's not working. And the problem appears to be, so I get out my multimeter, and I got my multimeter in beeping mode. So if I touch these thingies, oh, is it not in beeping mode anymore? No, let me put it back in beeping mode. Let's see. Okay, beeping mode. Hear that? So I say, okay, let's just try the obvious thing here. Let's go on the one that is working, and I'm touching from the board. So here's the green bit. That's the board, and then right at the board, there's the place where the the board connects with the ribbon. So I don't want to touch on the ribbon, I want to touch on the board. So I touch on the board, and then likewise, I want to touch on the ribbon. Let me see if I can actually get this to the little pinchy functionality to work here. So this one's got little pincers. That's not going to work. So I'm going to have to put this down on the table. But if I put this on the table, and I put the multimeter in continuity mode, so it beeps when it's touching, and first let's want to make sure that the multimeter is working. So I put it on the board here, and then, whoops. There we go. So I get a signal. Now I do the same thing on the other one. And I'm just looking at the first pin here. I would have needed to test all pins, but I'm just looking at the first pin. Now let's see if something, magical happens. But I just visually inspecting it, I could tell the solder looked different on this one than it did on that one. So, it's kind of, hopefully you were able to see a little bit when I brought that in closer. But I'm gonna do the same thing here, and let's see if we get the same result this time. Because this is very simple. Well, let me do this first, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, so I put my meter on the board, and I got no contact. So I'm very, very... Okay, now it's the ribbon. But on the board, I've got no contact. So that tells me that the solder may have chipped on this or is broken in some way. And I don't know. It's kind of weird. But anyway, so when you're looking at something like this, you got to think, what could possibly go wrong? Hold on, I'm going to get the camera to adjust real quick. There we go. Turn the light off. Come on, camera, adjust. Adjust. Right. And turn the light. There we go. Yeah, sometimes you got to make it go to the extremes for the auto features to work. But, I mean, you just look at this thing. There's not a lot going on here. So what could go wrong? Well, bent pins inside, right? So I look inside, and it doesn't look like there's anything that appears to me to be a bent pin, just kind of visually inspecting it. Take my phone to it, look inside, and I'll try to bring this over for you and get it to refocus again. You just look inside. Does it look like there's a bent pin in there? No, it doesn't look like there's a bent pin. I see one resistor on here, right there. One resistor. I don't see any dark spots on it or anything. I see one LED, which is probably not functional in terms of, the controllers working. I would imagine it'd be a really weird design if that LED died and it caused the controllers to not work. But the LED turns on. So just looking around the board here, there's no electronics except for that, that resistor and that LED. We've got a switch, which seems to be just a switch, and then on the back, it's just solder in a ribbon, right? So if you're looking at some sort of electrical component and there's not a lot there in terms of capacitors, resistors, whatever, the first thing you want to do is check what components are there. This is pretty much all wiring. It's just traces to go to these wires. So the problem is either going to be, most likely, if it's not bent pins, if I can't see a bent pin, and you'd think you'd see that, or you'd see like heavy discoloration, like say there was somebody spilled orange juice in here and it corroded the copper plating, you'd see that green cruft on there, So we don't have any of that green cruft on there. I'm gonna take a look again for myself, and I don't see any scratches or anything. So anyway, that's what led me to think, okay, well, maybe the problem is the ribbon cable. Let me look more closely. And I do think it's kind of suspicious. It looks like maybe somebody had resoldered this ribbon cable and just didn't solder it on very well. Or maybe the joints got cold and they just broke. I mean, it looks very strange to me compared to the other one. But my main point here is you just want to be able to look at the board, and if there was like a big gouge down the side. Hold on, I'm going to make it pick up the light better again. Okay, now it's going to light up because it's dark. Come on, light up. Ooh. There we go. All right. We don't see any deep scratches or anything like that. And so then we got to get out the multimeter and we just got to test basic things. I mean, one thing that I would test too, which I still want to test just because I'm curious, because it could be that every single time I've measured this, somehow I actually haven't been touching the board, but I've done this several times now. You just saw me do it. But we also could say, okay, well, let's see if we can put, where's pin number 1? Okay, so here's the first controller. Let me just see if I can get my multimeter in there. Okay, it's kind of, I think it's sticking on there. Oh well. But we just kind of touch it. Touch to the front and touch to the back. It's a lot harder to do on camera where I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. But we just touch to the front and touch to the back, and we can see, do we get continuity? So let me try that again. I'm gonna have to hold this down to do it. But just to demonstrate, if we see a solder point on the back and we see a pin on the front, do we get continuity? If we don't get continuity, we know, hey, maybe there's a cold solder joint there. Maybe the pin is bent or ripped or broken. So I expect, let's see. Oops, let's see if I can get connected to this here. All right, there we go. Yeah, so definitely getting connectivity there. So where I don't seem to be getting connectivity is on the ribbon. So what I'm going to do, let me see if I can find my iron real quick. I'm just going to heat up my iron for a minute, and I'm going to, we'll see if we can just reflow the solder on this, and I'll plug it in and try it again. I want to make sure it doesn't bridge. But I think if I just reflow the solder and try it again, I think we're going to, I think it's going to work. And then I wanted to see if I could bring up another picture. And if I did need to buy a new one, this looks kind of cool. Hold on just a second here. There we go. So if I did need to buy a new one, there are these replacements, and they look pretty good. They look actually better than the original because they got a place for the battery slot. It looks like maybe in later versions they made the battery slot replaceable. So this one is for a DLL. I don't know, it says Nintendo on it, but yeah, battery slot's replaceable in that one. And all the ones I've seen in original Nintendos, it's not replaceable, which kind of stinks. I tried ordering a new battery for one, and it didn't end up going well. Oops. But anyway, oh, that's me. All right, so let me switch this back here. And we'll see if we get success. Let me pull out my iron. Oh. I'm just going to plug it in, do a really ad hoc job here. Oh, and of course, always losing. Where'd that thing go? I'm always losing my little thing. All right, let's move some of this stuff out of the way. Get the iron on the desk here, heat it up, and we'll just see if this works. I think it will. I think that it will. And then I'm just going to check and see if we have any comments real quick. No, anybody joined in yet? All right. Let me go ahead and bring this around. Okay, iron is warming up. I need to get a little pad out for the iron. And let me see what I can find. So I always misplace my my wool sponge. I don't know why oh, there it is. There it is. Cool. Let's bring that out. We're going to need that. And then I just need something to work on. Actually, this would be a good surface to work on. Let me see if I can find a better one, though. Yeah, that'll be all right. We'll just do a little work on this. It's going to be fine. Move my computer stuff out of the way. Actually, do I need to bring the other desk around? I might need to bring the other desk around. We'll just do the work right here, and it's going to be all right. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I've got, which one is this? All right, this is my 60/40. That's what I'm going to work with. I like the 60/40. So I'm just going to take, I've got my flux here. I got my 60/40. And I'm just going to take a little flux, put it on the tip here, so I can spread it across the ribbon. So, whoops. All right, there we go. Too much is just enough. I always get rid of the excess flux. Okay, my iron's at 400. I'm going to bring it down 375. I like to keep it as low as I can and get the job done. And then first thing I want to do, I always, when I put my iron away, I always put extra solder on it. So then the first thing I do is I clean that off. And then we're going to wet the tip just a little bit. That helps it to transfer heat better. Got too much flux on here, which again is just fine. Let me see if I can get this off. There we go. Because it's already got flux inside. And I'm just putting a little bit on there just to wet the tip. That's all I'm doing. Just so it transfers heat a little better. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to bend the ribbon so that the ribbon is not in my way. And then I'm just going to take this thing kind of straight across. I wish I could show you. I don't have my other camera set up to do the top-down view. But I'll just kind of show you here. With my iron nice and hot, I'm just going to drag it across here, but I'm going to do that down below. So sorry you won't be able to see it, but I'm just going to drag it across the bottom of the ribbon cable. I'm going to see if I can just pull the ribbon cable off, if it just comes up. No, it doesn't. That's okay. I don't need it to. Okay, all right, there we go. Each of those is now warm. Okay, it might be a little too warm. I might have to turn the temperature down a little bit because I can see it's causing the ribbon to melt a little. And I don't really want the ribbon to melt. I mean, that is a consequence, but if I can avoid it, I will. All right, so it looks like this is kind of junky solder that's on there. Okay, I'm going to turn this down to 350. And just try to be careful about not leaving the iron on there too long, because we don't want the ribbon to melt. Okay, now what I've done at this point is I've bridged all the connections, because I'm just trying to put some fresh solder on there. And so I've bridged all the connections, which is bad. We don't want it bridged. So there's a couple ways to fix that. One of which, we just clean the tip of the soldering iron, and then we can drag it along again, and then it will start removing solder. Another way is to use Kimwick. And so I'm going to use the Kimwick. So that's this stuff, Kimwick. I think I've got links. I didn't put my soldering links in the doobly-doo on this, but you can go to kit.co/coolage86. You can see my soldering links. I've got the Kimwick. I like it as opposed to Gutwick because it's got the flux is already on the wick, and I find that it actually works a little bit better than the Gutwick, but the Gutwick's fine. You know, you can put some flux on that and use the Gutwick, it'll work. Anyway, I'm just going to take this, and then I'm just going to drag it across, and then it's just going to pick up the excess. Okay, that's my multimeter letting me know I haven't used it in a minute, and it's bored, so it's going to turn off, which is great. All right. Okay, so I'm actually going to get a little more flux on there too. I'm kind of surprised, but it seems like it wants it. It's got, I guess it's because that solder that was on there is really old. It's just not seeming like it's being very cooperative with me. And right now, the Gutwick, or not, I mean the Kimwick is actually stuck to the bottom part where the ribbons are connecting, which is just fine. That happens. But it's not conducting heat as well as I would be expecting it to. So I would expect it to heat up and be melty, but I guess, you know, this turn off you. The solder it's on there is just kind of old. Just put a little flux on it, There we go. And then, yeah, now it's being a lot better. Now it's picking up the solder better. There we go. Okay. And the solder's really kind of clumpy in a strange way. So I think maybe we'll just soak up the old solder and we might put on some new solder. We'll see. Alright. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I've removed the bulk of the excess solder. Yeah, this looks really crufty. That looks really crappy. I don't know what solder was on there, but it must have been some really old, crufty, crappy solder because it's very weird looking. Normally I don't see solder like it's almost looks like sand. It's like getting all gritty. That's kind of weird. I haven't seen that before, so I don't know what to make of that. Anyway, there we go. So let me see now. Can I pull this up? It's gonna let me pull it up. Nah. Okay, so I might just have to clean it in place. I don't know what to make of that. Well, maybe I'll just put a little bit of fresh solder on there and call it good. Let's see. Yeah, I think those pads need to be freshened up, and maybe if they're freshened up, because I'm pretty sure that's where it's messing up, is that connection right there. So again, sorry you can't see it. I wasn't expecting to do this tonight, but the mood struck to just kind of see if I could boot this thing up, and then as I was realizing what was going wrong and stuff, I thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll stream this as I figure it out. Let's see. That's not working out the way I want. It really isn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of upward pressure and put just a little bit of heat on these and see if they come off. Because I kind of want to get them off and then just put them back on one by one. It doesn't seem like it really wants to do that. A little confusing. A little confusing. I don't know what's keeping it on there so strong. Especially if it's not very conductive. Whatever, I'll just work with it. Okay. Yeah, plus to tell you the truth, it'd be a pain to get these things all back on just right, because I can see that they kind of want to bend a little bit, and that's no good. So yeah, there's not a lot of space between these, so I'd say it's probably better that I don't do what I think I wanted to do. Instead, I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh solder on here. So I'm going to wet my tip again. Well, first I'm going to clean it. Let's clean it off. Get a little bit more of this nice lead solder on here. And then I'm just going to try to put just a tiny, tiny bit on each of these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag down in line with the pins. So let me see if I could show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, hey, welcome. Feel free to say hello. Tell me where you're from, what your favorite GameCube game is, or whatever brings you to the channel. I'm going to bring this back up on screen so I can show you. There we go. Let me bring this back over a little bit. Okay. So I don't actually have a good image of it, unfortunately. Let's see if I can just bring this up here. Yeah, because they're all showing the wrong side of it. Let me just click on one of these and see if I can show you like a close-up of the other side. Somebody's got to have... All right, there we go. There's the picture of the back side, except that they got it covered up, what we need to look at. So let me go down here and see if these ones have an image that's more what we need to see. Okay, there we go. That's it right there. Okay, so what I'm saying There we go. This is a lot better, actually, being able to do it this way. Hold on, let me see if I can make that even a little bigger there. No, I can't make it any bigger than that right now. Oh, yes, I can. There we go. Yeah, so this is what we're talking about. Like, these don't seem like they've got a solid connection on them from what I'm looking at them. And when I was testing by putting my multimeter probe here and then putting the other end of the probe, whoops. Well, you can't see it, but at the other end of the ribbon, I'm not getting a connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting the fresh solder on. I'm just going to drag this way on each of them to try to make sure that I can see that there's some solder on the ribbon itself, and then there's some solder on the pad. That's kind of the goal, is I'm just dragging the iron. And I'm using a big tip. The tip's too big, but I always prefer to use a too big tip because it transfers heat better, and that's your primary goal when you're soldering. So, I mean, realistically, it'd probably be better if I just bought one of these working ones on eBay, but I like to try things out on my own, and I find it kind of fun to just kind of play around and do the repair and figure stuff out. So that's why I'm just going to do it myself. All right, that one. The real trick though is the distance. You can kind of see here, but the distance between these pins. On the one I've got, I don't even think it's that much. It's a very tiny distance, and so it's kind of hard to get the solder to flow this way and not bridge across, and we can't have it bridging across. That'll ruin the communication. But I'm just trying to be careful about it, and maybe I'll be able to show you when I'm done here. But when you get them bridging, what you do is you go back and you put a little bit of flux on it, and the flux will make them not want to bridge. It'll make them want to go away from each other. So I pretty much got them all here. Connection looks a lot better. I mean, it kind of looks crappy from the sense that it's not pretty, and I'll try to show you once I'm done. Maybe we can do a little bit of a before and after. But I think there's just like one pin there that I might need to take some tweezers to or something. But now they're looking a lot better in general. But I got one pin that's kind of bridging, and I think it's just a little too close. And maybe if I just hold this for a second and then move it over. Let's see now. There's too much solder there. It's flowing between them all. I'm going to take just a little bit of my solder wick and just see if I get just up a tiny bit of that. I don't want to get up too much. I'm just going to hold it there for half a second. That was not enough time. There we go. Held it there for about a second. That was enough time. Pulled up just a little bit of solder, and then I hold for a second and I drag. And again, let's see, these two are just a little too close to each other. So I'm seeing if I can, there we go. I just turned the bevel a little bit sideways. So again, sorry, I don't have the second camera set up tonight, but I turned it sideways so it's on its edge, so it's a little thinner. And then I was able to use that to move them a little bit apart from each other. And that seems to have worked. And now I think if I'm looking at it correctly, I think I got rid of the bridge on all the connections that were bridged. So yeah, this is looking pretty good, I think. Let me test that one there. There we go. Yep, and just use that little sideways trick again. Seems to have worked. And yeah, so it doesn't look as pretty as what you see in the picture. And there's a little bit of warping now from the heat. Let me get my phone light on this so I can see for myself a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think there's any bridging there. And we'll just test a little bit with the multimeter. Okay, there's one area where there's a little bit of bridging between the last pin and ground, and I don't think we're supposed to bridge on that. Yeah, we're not. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing, just like I was showing you. I'm just taking the iron. I got a little bit of bridging between these two right here, and so I'm just going to take the iron, hold it there for a second, and swipe down. And that's going to cause the bridge to go away. And if it doesn't, I'll just put a little bit of flux on there, and it'll cause the bridge to go away. So, yep, that looks like that worked. Cool. All right, so now what I'll do is I will get out the multimeter and we'll test again. And we'll see if now we get better readings. And I am going to need to grab my my alcohol and a swab to get rid of the flux, because there's a little bit of excess flux. Well, a lot of bit of excess flux, because I like to use too much flux, because it's easier to clean it off. It's easier to work with it and clean it off than it is to not have enough of it. So give me a second, I'm going to grab the alcohol. And then where did my little scrubbers go? Let's see. One day I'm going to learn to put these things in the right place where I remember them. They were... You know what? Give me just a second here. I think they should have been in there. Magnetic. I know I saw these just the other day too. I'm just looking for my little swabs. They're somewhere around here. If I did this every day, I'd have a better system for storing my stuff. But if I did this every day, I'd be in a completely different line of work. Let's see, did I put them over here? I know I also use them. I use them to clean a couple of different things. Ah, there we go. Yeah, I put them over here because I also use them to clean the camera lenses sometimes. So they found their way over there. And I've got a bigger bag of them. This is the bag I keep them in. You see, they're not like the swabs for your ears. They're medical. They're nylon swabs. But you use them to clean camera stuff. You use them to clean a lot of different things. But they're really good for cleaning the flux off of electrical components. The alcohol dissolves it, because flux is pretty much tree sap. That's basically what it is. And so the alcohol dissolves it, and then a lot of, the grody, ugly looking bit of the board. Let's see if you can see. You can see the tip there. It's pretty nasty. Anyway, that all comes off. It looks really nasty when you're doing it, and you're like, oh, it looks like it's burning the board. No, it's just burning flux. It's fine. Alrighty. So, yeah, this is looking, well, I hesitate to say it's looking good. Yeah, it's looking alright. Let's see. There's one part there I need to look at a little bit closer. Might be some bridging. Let me see. It's hard to tell. The way you get a little bit of glare. I'll just test with the multimeter. That's the easiest thing to do. Let me pull this back out. Okay. So we're going to just test with the multimeter and see if there's any bridging between these pins. So I'm basically, I got this up over here, yeah. So I'm basically just going to touch multimeter to this pin, and then move over to this pin, this pin, this pin, this pin, so on and so forth. I'm just going to make sure there's no bridging on that. That's all we're doing right now. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. So I'm going to press the button to put it in continuity mode. And again, first thing I'm always going to do is you want to test every part of the system. Simplest parts first. First thing we need to check is the multimeter still working correctly. Do it every time, because you press the button or it goes to sleep or whatever, it gets out of the mode that you want it to be in. So let's see. Touch these two next to each other. Nothing. Oops. All right, that's good. Touch this one at the bottom to the top. Good. Actually, I need a little bit of finer point. I'm going to grab my other multimeter, because these leads, they're about the same width as the pins, and then I got these the ultra fine tips here, which I don't know if you can see how fine those tips are, but they're pretty fine. All right, so let's press power on this. All right, this one's already in continuity mode. Okay, good. That's what I like to see. Make sure the multimeter itself is working first. Sometimes when the battery gets low, continuity mode doesn't work that well. Let me see if I can pull this over here. And I think I can, well, I'll check this and then I'll turn my iron off. but let's see. Okay, that one's good. That one's good. Okay. Neighbors are not connecting. Board is connecting. Neighbors. Okay, this one it looks like neighbors are touching on the, let me try this again. Yep. Neighbors on left and right are bridged. All right, let me go on. Test the other ones. Huh. Let me look down here. It says that these are bridged too. No, it doesn't. Okay, good. Those are not bridged. Good. Let me test that one more time. Okay, good. I had the pin, because they're so thin. Okay, so those two are bridged, and then these three are bridged. Okay. So, let's clean off the tip of the iron. It's been sitting there for a few minutes. And normally, because I want good heat transfer, I'd wet the tip of the iron. But since the case that I'm working with here, I'm actually trying to unbridge something. I want the iron to be a little more dry so that it'll suck up any of the excess solder. So let me go down here. Whoops. Let's move this over a little bit. There we go. Oh, that's what I should have done before. I was going the wrong way. All right. So again, I just got the picture up there for demonstration. I don't have the second camera hooked up to show you what I'm doing, but I'm doing what I described earlier. Okay. So without any of the excess flux, it just wants to bridge harder. So I'm going to have to put some flux on here. So let's go back. Let's go back over. Move that out of the way. I got too much stuff on the desk right now. I should have brought the second desk out. And I could have brought the second camera around to get that set up, but I didn't. Anyway. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I will let's clip the Chemwick. I'm just going to clip that into the garbage. That's good for the fishes and the animals that live out at the garbage, Helps them grow their 3 eyes and all that. So there was this thing about they thought there were these mutant frogs out in Illinois or someplace, and they thought it was from stuff that was being dumped into the water, and it was this big news story. It turns out it was completely unrelated to pollution. Not to say that pollution's not, not bad, but it wasn't related to the things that were being dumped into the water. It was a particular parasite that had migrated from one area to another through bird migrations and was causing frogs to... The parasite was like replicating frogs' genes or something and causing them to grow an extra leg or look like they were growing an extra leg or something like that. It was very fascinating. Because I saw one of the documentaries a few years ago, and then I saw the other one, I think it was this year. It was very interesting to see the resolution of it all. It ended up not being the pollution, but it ended up being a weird natural process. All right, anyway. All right, that's looking better. I think I got rid of the bridge on the one. Let me go over to these 3 that are bridged. Let's see, just hold down for 1 second. All right, it reflows, good. Hold down for 1 second there, it reflows, that's good. Okay. Now, I think I got rid of the bridge. We're going to go back to the multimeter probes, and we're going to check again, and I'm going to check the adjacent ones to where the bridge was that I just fixed. So again, what I'm doing is I'm taking these little tiny pins, and I'm just putting them, put one here, and then I check on this side and on this side, and I move over. And I do the same thing, check on this side, and I move over, so on and so forth. So I'm checking for bridges. Okay. Now it's telling me that it's about to turn off because I haven't used it in 5 minutes. Okay, that's good. All right, so only the one that's supposed to light up is lighting up. That's good. And these weren't lighting up before. So we're definitely, I think we solved the problem that I set out to solve. Okay, good. So neighbors are not lighting up, but it is lighting up where it's supposed to light up, which it was not doing before. Of course, I was using a different set of probes to test before. Okay, I've tried almost every single one of them now. On the last 3. All right. All right, and then sanity check. I also tested this against this. If you can see, oh, you can't really see my mouse. Sorry about that. Make my mouse bigger. There we go. So this one against this one, and this one. Well, let's see if I can get it. Come on, get big again, mouse. This one against this one, you know. And what I was saying before was I was checking is just, whoops. So I put my probe on this, and I check the one before and the one after, and go to the next one, so on and so forth. All right, so that looks good. So what I expect, actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the iron at this point. Well, no, I'll clean off the iron. I'll wet the tip a little bit. So I want to store the iron with a nice coat of solder on it, because that's going to protect the longevity of the iron. So I'm just I'm wetting the tip of the iron. I'm tinning it. I'll put in a little bit on there so that it can flow a little. I've turned the temperature of the iron down a little bit. It's probably a little too high for what I'm doing, but it's got a nice big blob on that. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably not going to fall. It's got, yeah, you can kind of see that. It's a nice big blob on it, and that's how I'm going to put it away. I put a nice big blob on there, and then I put it in the holder, and I turn the iron off. I'm going to let it cool down, and then that way it keeps the iron from getting oxidized or anything. When I pull it back out later and I turn it back on, let it heat up, I'll clean it off, and we'll continue forward. So anyway, with all that done, let's see. I feel pretty confident about this at this point. I think that all it needed was a little reflow of that solder. I think the old solder had just gotten corroded or cracked or something. So we're gonna turn this thing on, and I'm gonna find out if it works again now. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. I just went through. I double checked all of the connections manually with my finest tip. So there's nothing bridged. It doesn't look as pretty as I might like it to look. I'll put a little more alcohol on here and clean it up a little bit, because most of the stuff that's ugly is just flux that has essentially burnt. So it's got this little brown bits on the contacts in the board, but all that is just flux. So we just scrub it a little bit with these nylon medical Q-tips essentially, and then flux comes off and it looks a lot cleaner, a lot shinier. I mean, it doesn't look like it was factory flowed. It's still got a lot of imperfection in the way the solder flowed on there, and it's difficult to work with that stuff. But again, I prefer to have a good connection with the heat flowing evenly than to have use a small tip and to try to get it all pretty and everything. It just takes a long time to do that. I mean, I'd like it to be pretty, but I feel like I do better work with the bigger tips. And I think that's what most people end up saying, is they say avoid the conical tips. Avoid the conical tips. Just use the screwdriver tip or the bevel tip when you can. And then, my philosophy is put too much on and then clean it off. It just seems like it works out better in the end. By the way, it's okay for me to not have unplugged, and you can't even see this GameCube. Let me move this here. I think I can get you so you can see the GameCube at least. So let's come down a little bit. You can kind of see it there. So let's see if I can tilt this towards you. Oh, there's too many things on the desk. Got a couple of different GameCubes, this, that, and the other. Whoops. So I just plugged it in there. And it is still plugged into power, but this is actually okay that it's plugged into power. The reason being that this switch here, well, you can't really see it. Let me see if I can... Oh, I need to move this a little bit. So this switch is actually a real switch. So when this switch turns off, right there, let me, again, let's see, eliminate it. Yeah. So when that switch is up, it's physically disconnected. This is not a software switch. It is a hardware switch. So when that switch is up, it is physically disconnected. It's the same as if I unplugged it. So that's why I didn't have to unplug it. Let's go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to put Pikmin back in. So, and then I think I'll just hold down the little button. Where's it at? Is it over here? I think it's over there. Somewhere. Yeah, right here. I'm just going to hold this down. Let me plug in the controller. I'm going to plug in my worst controller though, just in case. I don't want one of my premium controllers to get messed up by what I'm doing here. Here's the one that I colored on with permanent marker. Oh, yeah, we'll just leave the light on. I don't know why I was doing this in the dark. With only the desk lights. That doesn't make sense for this. Okay, here we go. So I've got that plugged in. We're going to turn it on. I'm going to hold down this. I've got the TV up here. I'll let you know what happens. All right, it's spinning away. System settings were lost. Calendar and other settings were reset. Choose system settings now. Sure. Go ahead and do that. Huh. Well, that still doesn't work. Well, so maybe that didn't work. Maybe this was all a wash. Let me make sure I'm plugged in with the one. Let me make sure this controller is actually... Okay, all right. I'm gonna try this here. Let's see. That's so strange. Everything seems to be working as expected. There's no electronics on here. What could possibly be the problem? I'll have to double check that. Dang it! You know, I really thought it was the connection of the pins that was the problem. I know that seems a little odd, but I don't see anything else it could be. Actually, you know what? I do see something else it could be. This is so strange, but we've got cold joints on the controller itself. Okay, I'm going to turn the iron back on. All right, this could be. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just as a sanity check, I'm going to go back. I'm going to put the working deck in. I didn't notice this before, but the joints, let's see if I can show you here. The joints here are actually cracked. There's cracked in the joints on the board. And it only looks like controller 1 is cracked, but controller 1 is, in fact, I can see cracks on the joints. That is so strange. What an odd thing. Let me just take a look at this other one. Do we see any? Yeah, that is so weird. Huh. So we may have had two problems, or I may have measured incorrectly 2 or 3 different times about the cable. But if that one had strange cold joints, it makes sense. You know, the cable. I don't know. It kind of does make sense that if we've got multiple problems, we've got multiple problems. That's believable. It's believable that there are multiple problems. Anyway, I'm going to go back. Let's just make sure my old junk controller is working. You know, just always check. Always make sure, are things working as you expect? Because sometimes, you know, they're not. Yeah, okay, this is working. All right, so it's going to let me pick the calendar. All right, what is today's date? Ooh. It is, what, 2021, August 21st, 22nd, something like that. 2021, 2021, what is it? Can I get to the 21 still? Okay, what time is it? It is 11. 11:04. Now, this is kind of strange because I don't know why I'm bothering to do this, because as soon as I disconnect this thing again, it's going to forget. Oh, well. Maybe I'll do it quick enough that it will not forget. We'll see. I doubt it. All right, finished. Okay, cool. Anyway, I've got the iron heating back up, and I'm just gonna resolder. That is so strange. I can actually see cracks in the solder almost everywhere. Like, I don't know how that would happen. And it's only in port 1. But yeah, oh my goodness. I mean, I wish I could get you to see this here. That is port 1, right? Okay, we're looking at port. Yeah, this is port 1. Port 1. You won't be able to see it really well, but I mean, even if you zoomed in, I don't know how I could get it so you could see it, but the solder is cracked on almost every single pin. I mean, this must have. Let me inspect this closer. That is just not something. I mean, I don't look at a whole ton of these things. This is not my job to repair GameCubes. But yeah, here's something else where it's cracked too. Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I guess I'm gonna add some more solder and reflow that a little bit. Let's see what we can do here. So you kind of see me in the background. Oh, let's see. Can I get so you can see me in the background? Can I move this a little bit? I mean, this is just gonna be kind of hard to, but you'll see me in the background here. I'm just gonna reflow the solder on this. Okay, we got it up to 350. And again, I'm probably gonna put a little too much solder on there. And then, I mean, what would be really nice is to wick the bad solder away and put only fresh good solder on it. But here's the thing. Yeah, that is so strange. I'm going to use the multimeter. Let me see if the multimeter agrees with my analysis. But because the way that this is attached, I think it'd be really difficult to get that solder off, but we'll see. Okay, where can I... Okay, let me touch there and there. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it looks like when I go to the test points, it looks like it's beeping. So it seems like it must have a connection, right? I don't know, but again, I mean, like, what else could possibly go wrong with this thing? You know, if we got... I could visually see that it's cracked. Oh, I was testing the wrong ones. Let me test the correct ones. I had the thing upside down. Okay, this here. Okay, well that one's sounding off. So even though they're cracked, oh, this one's not connected. Okay, so that one's cracked enough that it's not connected, or... Okay, all right. So it looks like some of them are still connecting, some of them are not connecting. What a strange thing to happen. All right, I'm gonna... Where's my... There it is. Pull this guy out here. Yeah. Let's see, we got any comments? Feel free to ask a question or anything. You ask me other stuff about GameCube Homebrew or whatever. Doesn't have to be about the problem at hand here. But okay, I will try this. This is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna wet the tip. I'm just gonna put way too much solder down on here and try to heat up these joints. Yeah, that's crappy solder. Okay, good. All right, get nice crappy solder. We're gonna take that right on off. Yep, I can just tell by the way it's kind of melting and the way it moves. It's old bad solder, which seems weird, but it's rusted or something. Oxidized. Anyway, where'd that chem wick go? Here we go. Let's get the chem wick, and I'm going to wick away as much of this as I can so that we can put fresh lead solder on here. All right, there we go. Come on, come on, wick away, wick away. All right, wick away, wick away, wick away. Oh gosh, yeah, it's pretty big blobs of solder. I mean, I don't know if you can see this. Let me bring it forward maybe. Things like completely silver there. So there's a ton of solder. I mean, of course, there should be, because mostly what I'm getting off is from the places that don't matter. They're just grounds for actually connecting the controller to anchor the controller to the board more than to make electrical connection. So those ones don't matter that much. It's the ones where there's the electrical connection. That's what we need to worry about fixing. All right, now all those pins are nice and clean. I'm going to try to clean them on the other side if I can. Oh man, I need to get the fume extractor out and get that stuff out of my face. All right. Okay, let me get this one out of the way. All right. Get this one out of the way. And again, I'm just kind of doing this for fun. Every once in a while, I have different ways of relaxing. Sometimes I relax by programming, not necessarily, what I'm doing at work, but just something else. Sometimes I relax by reading a book. That's very rare these days. I used to do that a lot more. But I find it kind of relaxing just to solve a problem. There's no real deadline on this. This is just something I picked up extra. To do. Well, actually, it's because somebody asked me about getting him a custom GameCube that was all set up for Homebrew. He didn't care whether it was modded or not. So I bought a couple GameCubes, and I'm going to get him a system that works well. I might send him this system because it seems like the laser's working just fine. We'll see. I might send him the Japanese system if everything works when I get the Japanese Wind Waker here soon. Okay, so, alright, everything still looks good there. Doesn't look like anything got messed up. It looks like maybe there's a little bit of melted plastic on that one side, but that's okay. That's not a problem there. I mean, it's just a little tiny bit, just towards the edge. Anyway, yeah. Now I'm just gonna chuck this full of solder. So let's go ahead and load it up. So get that nice and hot. Bring in the solder. All right, fill it up. Looks good. All right, we'll do the next one. Fill it on up. Looks good. And lead solder is just, it's less likely to crack over time. It's just all around better. Whoops, that might have been too big of a blob. That's okay, we'll fix that in just a second. I'm going to put a little over here. I'll put a little too little over there. I'll come over here. I'll pick up some of this blob. I'll bring it over. There we go. Yeah. Okay, let me just bring a little this way too. All right. And then bring a little over here. It'll be interesting to see if this fixes it up. I think it really might. I think it's got a good chance. All right, now those are all bridged together. I'll have to unbridge them in a minute. Yeah, that one's... I'm actually going to use the tip of this to spread the 2 points apart, because I think that Ah, well, we'll get it. We'll get it in a second. Let me bring this over here. All right, good. Too much solder is an easy problem to solve. So I prefer to put a little too much and then clean it up, like I said. So now I'll just use some of the Kimwick and I'll just clean up a little bit. There's a little too much there, no problem. Oops. Let's go ahead and take a little off, no problem. All right, now those are looking good. Now those ones look like it took a little too much off, so I'll have to put a little bit on again. That's okay. I'll be a little more careful about it this time. Make sure I'm only touching one of them as I put it on. Let's see. Let's see. Get in there. Oop. I should bring up a picture on the screen of the part that I'm working with. Okay. Oh, this looks great. This looks great. Yeah. Okay, let's put that back in there. Okay, and again, it looks really ugly because the flux, because of the flux. But again, I just take some alcohol, and this one's going to be a little bit hard to rub. I mean, you'll probably be able to see. You kind of be able to see how it looks a little bit ugly. You can see those dark spots in there, but it's just flux. That's all it is. So I'll do the best I can just to clean it up. I mean, it doesn't affect the functionality. It just doesn't look as nice as it could. But it's kind of hard to get in there with the way that the pins are designed. So I'll do what I can. But I can get around it. I can do that all right. So I can clean the outside of it just fine. Around the edges just fine. But getting actually in between the pins, that's kind of a pipe dream. There's just they're too close together. I wonder if there's something else I could use to do this. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that looks pretty clean now. I mean, you can tell it's been worked on, but let me just get in between there. That's where it looks the worst. Okay, that looks all right. Okay. So with all that, let me go back to the multimeter. Let's see what multimeter says. And again, I'm sorry this is all out of focus over here, but it's not like I couldn't zoom in enough. Without doing the dual camera setup, I can't zoom in enough for you to actually see this anyway. Okay, so let's just make sure nothing is bridged. Let's make sure that we can get to the places we need to get to. So we should be able to hit this test point here. Huh, that's weird. It seems like that one should light up right now. How's that possible? How could that not be lighting up? Is there a little bit of flux in the way preventing the conductivity? Let me see if I can clean that out a little bit better. Because that should be pretty clear. Pretty easy, I would think. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, well that looks a lot better. Now there's alcohol over the board. Let me try to soak some of that back up. I'll blow some of it off or something. All right, let's see. I mean, this looks like this is a point here, Okay, good. That was just flux in the way, keeping it from detecting properly. Okay, that's looking good. All right, that's looking good. All those are connected good. That's looking good. All right, everything that I can test now is like nice, sharp, perfect connection. I'm guessing this thing must have been dropped like really hard. Or something. You know, the controller must have just been really yanked on. Because I don't know how else you could end up with yeah, those were really cracked joints. So maybe the ribbon was a red herring. Maybe I spent time on that for nothing. Maybe, I mean, it's happened before where I've gone to test something and I think, oh yeah, I've tested that test point. I got it just right. But then it ends up there's a little bit of corrosion there because it's really small. Or, you know, maybe there was a little bit of flux there that was, you know, acting as a layer of insulation in between. I guess I should clean them. I should probably use a little bit of alcohol to clean things before I test them, actually. That'd probably be a good way to go. Anyway, all right. I'm ready to try this again. I've tested the test points. Let me try one more time. I just want to make sure that I don't have any crossover between these. So touch this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No bridging. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No bridging. 1, 2, 3. No bridging. No bridging. All right, good. So there's no bridging. Everything's good. So yeah, we're just gonna turn this thing off. Okay. Apparently didn't realize I was using it, even though it was beeping every few seconds. Okay. So let's try this again. We're gonna turn this thing off. I'm gonna replace the connector there. It's just, you know, I probably should have. One thing I didn't think about, that battery there. I don't think it's enough voltage to make anything matter, especially because there's no components on this. But I probably shouldn't. At some point, I probably shorted out the battery. Let's see, there's that pin to the battery goes there. This goes ground, so that seems like that's pretty much everywhere else. Yeah. So at some point while I was goofing around, I shorted the battery for some amount of time. Didn't explode on me, so everything's cool. All right, now let's bring this around one more time. Let's see if we got it fixed. Again, probably not worth my time to do this. Would have been better to pay $20 or whatever to get the part, but you know, it's kind of cool just to do it for fun. And it's working. Look at that. It's working. Cool. So, you know, again, sorry I didn't have the 2 cameras set up today. You know, probably would have been a lot better if I did. But for anybody that just kind of wants to see, hey, here's some electronics repair. Here's some, you know, rando dude just doing what he does and getting success. I'm not always successful, but I think most of the time, if I choose to take on a project, it's because intuitively I feel like there's probably something here that with my brain, with the little knowledge that I have, I can figure it out. And I guess what I'm hoping is to help other people who are trying to figure out things, just what are the steps that you take to work through the problem? Because a lot of times when you first look at something, it feels like magic. But as you start to understand the components, you know, this board, all it's doing is connecting stuff. It's got a battery, it's got a resistor, it's got an LED. There's no and it's got a switch. There's no microcontrollers. There's no, you know, fancy components. I could look at the resistor. I could see that it wasn't black. I was able to use, you know, you do have to pay a little bit more money to get these little ultra tiny probes. And again, kit.co/coolaj86. I think down in the doobly-doo, I've got some soldering stuff maybe. But there's a kit.co for the GameCube homebrew stuff. If you just follow that, my electronic stuff is there too. But, yeah, so, you know, you got to get the tiny probes, but you get the tiny probes in there and you just test things like, and you can see the traces on the board. So let me bring back the computer screen for a minute just kind of do a review here. So when I say traces on the board, essentially all of the light green is copper with a lacquer on top of it. And all of the dark green is where the copper has been etched away. And so all of the big light, and it's different on different boards. You'll see some boards that are almost all dark green with just a little bit of light green, and you'll see some boards that are all light green with just a little bit of dark green. It just depends on the manufacturing process that they use. But the light green or the light blue or the light black or the light red or whatever it is, that's where there's copper traces. And where you see the dark lines is where it's been etched away. So here a trace has been made. Oh, again, you might not be able to see my mouse. I'll just move it. So here is where a trace has been made out of etching away copper. And then you like this, technically this is a trace, I guess. Like it's the ground pad. So everything that isn't etched away from is the ground trace, which is the rest of the board. And you can see some places where they've created a little bit more distance, and that might be to prevent from capacitance or to, I don't know why they would have etched so much away, but it's probably because these are bigger components. There's more risk of getting the solder touching. Anyway, so you can just kind of look at these things and you can see, okay, well this pad right here goes to this trace, and you can follow along. So what I was doing is I was touching the multimeter to one of these, and then I was looking for a place, or let me go back. So say this one right here, right? So I touched the multimeter to that, and I see there's a trace coming out of it. And then these are what we call, well, what I call test points. I think that's what they're called, test points. They're for manufacturing. They're part of the manufacturing fixture. The thing sits on here, and if they light it up, and if everything lights up the way it's expected, then they know that it's passed quality control. All the connections are there. So what had happened in this particular case was, and these, you could visibly see that there was a cracked circle the entire way around the pin on every single one of these, on all 6 of these, plus on these. So that means that there was some sort of real force, like somebody really knocked the controller hard to crack all of that. I can't think of another way that would happen. I mean, I guess it could just just be a really well-worn GameCube being plugged in and unplugged over and over and over thousands of times. Maybe that little bit of micro stress over and over again could cause that, but it was uniform across all of them. That was just kind of crazy. All 10 of these points. Anyway, so some of them were still connected, and I was still able to see that it was working, but some of them were not. And I am going to double check right now. Actually, I'm going to take a look here and just make sure. I mean, I already looked at this. None of the other ones, all the other ones, the solder looks good. It was just that one where every single one of them, the solder was broken. And again, with lead solder, oh, wait. Oh, I see one other spot that looks like it could maybe use a little love. So I might take this back off and give that just a little bit of love too. I don't really want to go over all of them. But there's one, it looks like this was just, that one looks like a manufacturing problem. It looks like it's just got a cold joint manufacturing. But you can see there's a little sink that instead of the solder bubbling up in a nice round bubble, that's a nice warm joint with plenty of solder. Instead, what was happening is it's just kind of a little bit sunken in, and I think that's just a random manufacturing defect. But who knows? It could be the same problem. So let me just address that really quick. Because, I mean, while I got this thing out, I might as well. Where was it? Or maybe it was just a trick of the light. Okay, I had it plugged in like this. This was facing this way. I was looking at it as it was down. Oh, it might have just been a trick of the light on that one. Yeah, okay, I think it was just reflecting something strange. No? Oh, okay, no, I see it. Yeah, there's a little bit of stress on that joint, I can tell. It's either stress or it just wasn't manufactured well. But either way, I'm just going to take a tiny bit of solder. I mean, technically I should desolder it, get rid of all the crappy solder and resolder, but I'm just going to add a little bit of good solder and it's probably going to be good enough. There we go. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that one just didn't get enough solder during manufacturing because that seemed, it seems like it's taken a little bit there. Yeah, that one I think somehow just didn't get enough during manufacturing. Okay, now that's good. Let's try this one, see how that one goes. Just add a little bit of lead solder to them. That'll just fortify them, make them a little more pliable too, because lead's very flexible. It's not so brittle like the solder that they have to use in manufacturing for meeting environmental standards and all that. That solder is not very good for solder. It's very good for landfills, good for the fish, not good for the electronics. All right. Oh no, now I bridged those two. Darn me. Oh no, now I bridged those two too. All right, that's all right. I'll get them unbridged. So the ways to get things unbridged, I mentioned this before, is either you, bridging is when you get solder across two pins where it's not supposed to go. There's too much solder, you touch the two pins, or not necessarily too much solder, just you touch the two pins and there's enough solder for them to start connecting to each other. But one way to do it is just to drag them. Sometimes you can drag them. There we go. That worked. So now that I got, yeah, maybe that was just a touch too much solder on that one. Okay, and then I'll get this one. All right, that's good. And then, so a lot of times all you got to do is kind of get the tip in there and then just pull up a little bit. And I'll get it out. And if that doesn't work, clean the tip off, get any of the excess solder off, and then just do it again. Or you get out the Kimwick. Okay, that one looks kind of funky there. Now, there we go. That one looks better. And then, oh, come on. And they're going to give me a hard time. I need to get out the Kimwick. Kimwick will pull it right on off. But then it'll pull off too much, and then I got to put a little more on again. It's a vicious cycle. All right. There we go. I don't think that pulled off too much. I think it pulled off just enough. There we go. Perfect. That was perfect. All right. Yep. Reflowed that. Okay, let me visually inspect this. I'll have to take the multimeter to it to make sure I didn't screw it up. But yeah, ideally, I'd remove the old solder entirely from each of these with the Kimwick, and then I'd put the new solder on. But in this case, I'm just doing a little touch-up with the new solder because I don't want to take the time to take the old solder off. And just adding a little bit of lead solder is going to make them less brittle. All right, got one more to do, and then I just need to test that one. Okay, there we go. Looks good. Nice warm joints. Everything's balling up nicely. Okay. There we go. Alrighty. Yeah, those joints look a little bit nicer now. Not all sunken in. Yeah. I don't know which ones were bridged, but none of them look bridged now. I'll turn on the multimeter just to check. I'll do a real quick check just between a couple of them that are close to each other. Okay, testing the multimeter. And testing the two connections, nothing. Good. All right. Cool. All right. So I feel a little bit better about that now. It's all been reinforced. Oh, good old solder in the lungs. Really good after a cold, you know. After you've been coughing up mucus for a week straight, nothing better for your recovery process than burning sensation of rosin core lung. It's good for you. Builds character. Anybody who says otherwise is selling something. Or on some sort of crack environmental committee. Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Alrighty. Cool, cool. Well, that's looking good. Cool, cool, cool. Let me see if I can clean these up a little more over here. Oh, now that's ripped. Good. It wasn't going to last forever anyway. I was trying to get as much use out of it as I could, and I did. I got just as much use as there was there to use. All right, cool beans. Well, let me go clip off this lead solder for the landfill. There we go. You know, just think of, here, this is one of those paradoxes, right? Now, obviously, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. There's so many reasons things would break. But lead solder makes electronics last longer. One of look from the PlayStations that have had those GPU issues, MacBooks that have had the GPU issues. So many of the professional repairs, what they do is they remove the old component, they remove the old solder, they put on a new component if it's necessary to put on a new component because the old one was damaged by the points touching where they shouldn't, and then they put on fresh lead solder, and then the thing lasts, you know. So I don't know whether environmentally if it's really better that we switched away from lead solder. It probably is. But, I mean, out of my 2012 MacBook, I got almost 10 years of use out of that thing. The 2011s that had the GPU problem where the GPU, I mean, I guess engineering fixed it too. They reseated the GPU or they did something where the GPU didn't get as hot, so it didn't cause the expansion and contraction and the warping or whatever. But anyway, okay. Well, I think this was successful. There's one thing I would like to do. I don't know how I'd test it though. I'd like to test every controller on this to make sure every single one of them is working. But I feel pretty confident that they are. I mean, just being able to visually inspect that and see it was definitely, without a doubt, messed up. And then, you know, having it work once I fix that, I feel really cool. You know, well, not cool is not the word, but like, you know, it feels cool to figure something out and to solve a problem. But I would like to test it. Anyway, I need to let's clean my iron here. So I'm gonna use my little Hakko sponge. And I've actually replaced the sponge inside. I think just once, maybe twice. Well, I got the cheaper sponges, but ones that had a fair amount of weight to them. It worked out all right. All right, there's my solder. And this is what I do. I just wet it, and then put a little bit on the bottom, put a little bit on the top, and that's just going to seal it. And then I put it away and I turn it off. There we go. And it's going to burn off a little bit of the rosin or whatever. But the next time I use it, it's going to be ready to use. It's one of the few things I do right with this whole setup. Oh, and I got that thing in my face. Here I am trying to talk to the screen. I got that all in my way. Anyway, if you did like it, go ahead and give it a like. If you like what you like, you get more of what you like. Mostly what I do on the channel is programming. Those of you that are tuning in probably know that. But I do this game stuff from time to time, or electronics repair, or a combination of gaming and electronics repair together. Actually, most things that I repair electronically are game things. I've fixed a Blu-ray player. I fixed a Star Wars Disney lightsaber. There's a couple of things that I've done, but a lot of it is game-related stuff. So anyway, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. Every thumb helps. And you have the best night ever. Adios. Oh, and checking the doobly-doo for links and all that. Relevant links, irrelevant links. Purchase links for my kit stuff for electronics and games and all